Decided to play nice. This is wonderful and definitely inspiration to work more on getting things a little bit more fond or functional with the live stream setup. Give everybody a few to get on here. Problem with not really doing the stage flow of thought at this. This is supposed to be interacting with people. I was waiting for others to show up. I think after this I might actually go watch a couple of live streamers just to see how they interact with people, even while they're waiting for things to pop up. Because, if the tower was functioning, you'd just be making music right now, and admittedly, if I could do the whole split screen thing, just, hey, watch what I'm doing with Minecraft, or hey, here we go and check out the jewelry making. But, just doing the lone cell phone thing here, it's a little bit harder, let's say. So, I don't know. I think definitely once I get the tower set up again and running fully with OBS Studios, because I know how to run it and stuff. It's just the fact that I'm either working on a phone or an i3 touchscreen from 2008 that's still running Windows 8 or 2012. Sorry, that's still running. Actually, I don't know the year on it. I know it's an Inspiron 15. I know it's an i3, and I know I've had the thing since college. So. But yeah, not exactly a piece of technology that can really do live stream and some of the stuff that I kind of wanted to. But I get the tower fixed. I've actually got OBS on that thing, and I could potentially do what I'd like to do is a camera setup of here of actually being able to talk to people when they show up, and then potentially camera showing whatever I might be working on at the time. So if I decide, hey, fiddle around on Minecraft, have some fun building stuff and talking about things, because admittedly, that Kingdom Craft Minecraft community, I've thought about it, but I also realize it's like I don't necessarily fit in. And the reason I say that is because some of the discussions I hear going on in the chat and what have you, and sometimes the things that pop up in the chat window here and there from watching videos of those who are doing it. And that's where it's kind of the difficulty with the live stream thing. Hello, person. Hopefully I don't show chat there. Okay, chat down there. Woohoo. But like I've been kind of rambling before you jumped on. Been sitting here thinking it's like when getting the live stream actually functioning and going and rolling and getting the tower fixed, I can get this OBS studio set up so I can either do Minecraft or do a split camera setup to do this kind of chat thing here to discuss things, and then also be able to have the camera pointing at either jewelry making or do woodcraft tinkering or whatever it might have sitting in front of me. Hello, people who are joining. It's nice to see you. But that would be something to functionally get going here in a few, because the i3 is just not gonna run it. It would be nice, but so right now I'm just kind of functioning with the cell phone until I get things set up. But hey, since more people are joining on, yay, let's dig on into it. As title says, the live stream to be talking about Genesis, but at the chat at the front of the book. And the reason I wanted to talk about it a little bit is because I've seen a lot of places arguments over translations. It's like, I hate the message for this, but the message is good for that. No, the NRSB and the ESV and the EIE iota gets to the point where, you guys stuck? Sorry, I made a wiki, sweet girl. Hi. I would tilt the camera to show the dog, but this thing just doesn't like moving right now. Again, one of the things for getting set up at the recruiter studio later. Once I can get that heat sink fan fixed. But, it's like, so you've got all these arguments over every little acronym, and piconym really, about, oh, this version of translation is better, that version of translation is better, KGV purists, and I never quite understood it because it's multiple languages here. You're looking at Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek. Greek for the New Testament, Hebrew and Aramaic for the Old Testament, right? And you're dealing with a language that is telling stories in it. Hi, Jenny. Nice to see you. You're dealing with a text that's telling a lot of narrative. Granted, there's poetry in here too in a lot of places. It's quite lovely poetry as well. Most of the psalms and the songs and the rhythm they invite into the reading. But with the different translations, if the things vary, it's because. And, hi, Quaz. I hope I said that right. Please correct me phonetically if I didn't. But and want to be polite, but it's like if there's something going on differently in the translations, that means something intention is something beautiful is going on in the Hebrew. DDG. Oh yeah, it did. Woot. Hi, Rabbit Junk. I'm not sure what DDG is, but but it's like if something like tzedakah, for example, right? That righteous love, that wonderful abounding love that goes deeper. Hi, Marlon Elliott. Hi, Marlon Elliott. Sorry, spliced there. But it's like so it's hard to describe in English because it's this kind of love that is not just relational, but it's the puts up with it, knows the person at their best, and puts up with the worst. Says, it's worth enduring. Says the love is worth it. Says the choice is worth it. And it's that commission to an hello, Mr. Banana. So sticking to that kind of idea, translating that in English is kind of hard, especially when we have one word, love, right? Greek, you at least have what? Eros for oh, no, Eros is naughty love. Phileo is brotherly love. Agape, the Greeks considered, could only be attained with the help of the gods, or God in this case. And then, um, oh, the familial one, I can never remember the name of it. And then Latin's got a ton of them on top of it. It would be rude, but your choice, free will and all that. So it's one of those interesting things about the translation's so hard to do, and you're dealing with idioms too because it's a language that's storytelling. It's these are family stories, and so family stories tend to carry that idiomatic language, and so translating becomes really difficult. Using words that we don't necessarily have the things for it makes it more so. Because if you've got one word in English for loving your family, your pet dog, and your spouse, concerning if they're all the same kind of love. At the very least, might want to discuss about it. Why shouldn't I be calm? Jesus is my peace. Dealing with the fact that it's like the translations make it harder that way. And so when interacting with others, when seeing how the different translations go, it's an invitation to dig deeper. I hope you have a wonderful day, Marlon, by the way. It's an invitation to see what's going on. Because as the English translations differ from version to version to version, like here's an example right here. Thank you, I appreciate it. Prime example, got the Message version right here. It's done more as a narrative, more as a story form, more as a, hey, this is the way to read it as a story, to dig into. That's why it's the Message version. It's meant to be as thought for thought in our idiomatic form of discussion as possible. It's meant to be as easy to read as possible. You got something like the Amplified here, and it's designed to kind of expound on the ideas. You've got something like the NRASB, which I admittedly have over there, but I didn't want to have a pile of them sitting in front of me. And the versions on that aren't necessarily the best of, they're not good English, but they're good Hebrew in English, translating word for word. And that's why you have the spectrum, idea for idea, thought for thought, word for word, that kind of gambit of it. And of course, NLT, which we've gone through a good chunk of together. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it, Marlon. When we went through Isaiah, Romans, a lot of it, well, I think Romans we didn't part the message, but a lot of the texts we've gone through together on this channel, it's been in the New Living Translation. And each one of these different versions, each one of these different texts has its own beauty to it. Even when you add in the King James version, got one of those over there along with the NKJV, like I said, the EIEIOs. When they're, simple, hey, it's the same in all of the languages, which, again, nice for having digital versions of the app because you can just look at the different versions right there and scroll through them. So instead of getting frustrated about them, actually digging into the beauty of them, digging into what the translation committee, what the individual visual person in the Message version with Eugene Peterson's case, maybe what the heart of it was the translation, what it was trying to dig into. And that's what I wanted to dig into and talk a little bit about today before digging into Genesis. Because before arguing about what this version says or what that version says, I want to talk about the heart of the person translating. Because the beginning of it, a beginning of all of them, you have a preface. And the preface is an introduction to the reader as to why the text. It's accurate. It's why we did it. These are the verses to focus on. This is why the translation. Hey, this was the heart behind it. Who's the person translating? Who's the committee? It's all right here. Go through the first couple pages just before you get to Genesis. They have little letters at the bottom of it for the Roman numerals, but I promise you it's there. And it's in the heart of every single one of them at the beginning. Not as a black secret text of hidden mythology and myth as to why they did it, the plans and the conspiracies and the tinfoil hat moments. No, it's like, hey, oh yeah, we got him. That's Snuggle Pumpkin. She's a sweet girl. Will flop anywhere, as long as it's comfy. Which just means near people. But with the text at the front of the book, it's trying to get rid of that divide. It's trying to take those things that would separate us and destroy them. Because the things that are there differing in English are an invitation. And I know I've said that a couple times, but I think it's because it's so important to understand deeply. It's something it took me a long time to understand. And I used to be a version purist myself. And then I got gifted a different version, and I started digging into that and taking notes in it, and I went on and on and on and on, and then finally, hey, digital Bibles, woohoo! But before that moment, it was digging into the text and seeing where God would take idioms about his unfailing love and try and explain it in faithfulness and honor, in covenant, in tenderness, in richness, in mercy, in purity, in ways that go deeper than we can understand. Because the trueness of God is that his ways are not our ways, his thoughts are not our thoughts, his very nature is higher than we are. And so, because of that, it's his way of interacting with us in a way we can understand. You know, in Genesis, when you read it in Hebrew, and that's why we're going to be using the CJB for that one, and potentially for Deuteronomy as well, like we have been, is because you get to read the guttural story. You know, in a lot of the English versions, they put it more proper, and they try and give reverence to these characters and that are our ancestors when we're in part of this family story. You know, it's trying to not make Grandpa necessarily look like a fall down drunk when he's being a fall down drunk, which I can appreciate and hope people will remember for me and do for me in those moments. But at the core of it, something can be taken away. And I'm not knocking it in any way, shape, or form. It's an invitation to dig into more, to expand more. And the idea of specialization is man's renaissance, is for mankind. To be able to pick and pull and understand and know everything, how you can paint a symphony and listen to a rainbow. Because both their frequency, their different ranges. I welcome any suggestions. Because I'll admit this is kind of my first major live stream doing this, and I usually do post Monday through Friday on it. So I'm excited to share the stuff, but I also don't want it to seem like I'm trying to sell it. You know what I mean? Because how did the guy put it? If you sell God with pizzazz, then you'll always need pizzazz to sell God. But if you're letting God speak for himself, then he gets to speak to us as we are. Because God didn't find me. I mean, yes, he's found me in those places when I was out seeking them and seeking him. Sorry, that was kind of good. But most of the time he's found me, it's when I was struggling hard. Once I get a heat sink for my tower fixed, I'm actually going to be doing that. Because that's something I enjoy doing, especially building. I more play Pokemon than buy them. But, you know, it was in those places of rock bottom, those places of hitting the ground, that God found me on the bounce. And it's in those places of, you know, like Egypt has, hey, you remember when you were slaves? I mean, the word in Hebrew, Hagar, the immigrant, is literally Hagar's name. And so it's like this seeing of, hey, you know what it's like for life to suck. When you remember those places, it's easier to pass it forward. When you remember how hard it is to go through those moments, it's easier to pay it forward. Appreciate it. Thank you. I greatly appreciate the input, Marlon. Thank you. Because it was in those places of fumbling. It was in those places of realizing I was being a stick in the mud, realizing I was being rigid as a cedar, but failing to be supple as a reed. Whether it was being a translation purist, whichever version it may have been at the time, or in being unwilling to look into the beauty of the history of it. I was very much in my past one of those national wave the flag kind of things and did some really stupid stuff because, I mean, that's pretty much the definition of my life. If you had to sum it up in one, I survived the stupid. That's why there's a D in the Ralph Wiggum joke for the channel name. Because managed to make it through and realize, oh, wait, you're not a bad person, you're just angry. You're not a hateful person, you're just having a hard time. You're not a broken person, just a person. Welcome to planet Earth. We're all a little damaged. If it wasn't the case, would the trickle down would have run downhill? The expression is the expletive runs downhill for a reason. Well, we all cover it in it because our society seems to love it. And it's not a finger wag at everybody. It's a looking at myself and going, wow, for a lot of the time, I was willing to put up with a lot of crap in my own heart and justify a lot of my own stupidity and do justification gymnastics to get away with committing some of the worst atrocities in here and in here. And sometimes it went to here too. And by God's grace, I made it through at least long enough to say, hey, here's the way not to. So you don't have to break your back and your neck to realize, hey, you don't have to be stiff-necked about it. God broke my body to show me how broken my spirit was, and if I had just taken the moment to realize how broken I knew I was in the first place, because I knew then I was broken. I understood inherently then that something was wrong. There was a reason that I prayed often, Lord, don't let me be the enemy. Don't let me be the Antichrist. I understood. But it wasn't until I was willing to let it go and admit to the brokenness that I was only able to walk free of it. That I was able to finally enjoy it, embrace joy constantly, embrace peace constantly, have that place of surrender be not of, oh, please let me smack me on it, no, but a moment of, hey, I don't have to carry this. He's throwing the excrement at me, but I did so, and? You know, like, a perfect example, to answer you earlier, Marlon, the reason I'm calm about it is because I've been in those places. I wasn't the kind of person who asked first. I just anonymity got away with a lot of stuff. And in doing so, I realized that when I look back on it now, that I hurt others in doing it. And I didn't care at the time. I mean, part of me did, but I was doing it because I wanted somebody else to hurt because misery loves company. And so I would do it without thinking about it. Only in hindsight could I realize, hey, if I had even done what you did of taking a moment and said, hey, maybe I shouldn't. Or should I? Because that one moment, that was way more profundity than I had for a long time in my life. Probably before I went back to being under 6 foot. Because I was too stubborn to take a moment to look at the front of the book and go, hey, I'm talking about, life. Take a moment and say, hey, what if this perspective is different from my own? What if the person across the and I know this is elementary logic. We hear about this in kindergarten, and little kids understand this inherently. But if that were the case, why did we forget? Why don't we continue to live it forward? And it's a personal choice thing. It's not a blame this group or a blame that group or a hey, what the heck. It's a taking a moment to say, hey, where can I pause and see this person differently? And this isn't a pie in the sky just spouting it here. This is something I try and live and do at work. And wherever I go. Because We got to be the change we want to see in the world. And perspective shifts, whether or not it's starting here, so we can dig into whatever your favorite version may be. So that when the language we come across may be different from what you're used to. I mean, heck, how many versions of Psalm 23, right? Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. So, rod and thy staff, they comfort me. You lead me beside still waters. No, usually it's only needling to rattle out off that point most of the time when I'm doing jumping into quick prayer there. Otherwise, it's actual, paused in a different translation from there. But again, it's talking about the beauty of it. And that's why I like to pause as well, because even just a perspective shift of that, we start talking about the fact that, hey, the message version says Eugene's trying to make it so that people can understand it. The amplified version says, hey, we're trying to make it so that the profound beauty of it can be understood. The NLT version, why do we translate it this way? Because we wanted people to be able to get into the feel of it without taking away the reverence of it. Heck, even the CJB version doesn't necessarily translate the fact that when Isaiah meets Rebecca, he's out taking a leak and she falls off her camel. Because it's a little hard to, you know, Father Jacob, Grandfather Isaac, yeah. How'd Grandfather Isaac and Grandma Rebecca meet? Well, he was out taking a leak and she, poof! Yeah, she's gonna meditate and he's gonna cover her face. Oh, okay. Well, I mean, she did technically after she fell off her camel laughing. It kind of fell off her camel kind of thing. Not necessarily laughing, but still, it's just kind of fun. And it's not take away reverence of the text in any way, shape, or form. It's to have this be a familial story, not a familiar story. Because familiarity breeds contentment. And it's not just true of text and things, it tends to be a way of people. And from my own experience in my own marriage or watching the marriage of those around me, your spouse doesn't stop being or it doesn't stop being amazing. We start being boring because we stop being interested. The familiarity breeds contentment. Instead of being a rich adventure, instead of being a fresh moment, instead of being a hey, I get a new day with you. I get a moment together. We get to spend time together, hold hands, wake up together. Something that many people cannot do for myriad of reasons. Borders, policies, divorce, death. That sucks. But we don't treasure the moment we have of, hey, I get to hold your hand. Instead, it's, oh, this one. What do you mean, oh, this one? Oh, this one said, hey, I want you. And you said, hey, I want you. Why'd you stop wanting each other? And we become so childish that we decided, I'm done with this toy. And we throw people away. Spending more time collecting action figures than we do cultivating relationships. And again, not calling out anyone directly. This is something I did in my own life. It's been a long time doing it, in fact. Because it was easier. It's easier to hide from pain. It was easier to hide from the admitting to the brokenness inside. It was just easier. And hey, if human beings are good at one thing, it is aiming for easy. And maybe that's just me. But the whole point of this channel was to dig into sharing those stumble moments and say, hey, maybe I don't have to. I'll share my stumbles with you, and if you feel for it, you share yours up with me. And we'll be accountability buddies. I mean, hell, thanks to Facebook, it's less than 4 degrees of separation anyway, so we're practically family. And if you want to go based on, pick a version back to Noah, hey, we're all family anyway. And considering the fact that every major culture, religion, like literally every ancient people has the same Noah story, and a good chunk of them actually have the same Adam and Eve story, but I digress. We'll dig into that. Well, okay, so it's a creation story, but it's slightly... Anyway, we'll dig into those as we dig into the live stream together. This was just kind of to get the foot in the water, to get input. Thank you again, Marlon. To kind of get this stuff going so that as we pick up, God willing, next week, it will be a little bit easier. I've got to work a lot this week, so next week would be the earliest I can get my tower in, but we'll go from there. I don't know. I'll see what I can do. Gotta lead the way. Next week, if we do meet Wednesday, it will be like this again. If we meet every other Wednesday, God willing, we'll be on the actual tower and be able to have Minecraft going potentially, as well as pulling up screens and stuff to talk about these things as we go. I digress. All these different stories are here together. They're shared. Talking about all the different ancient cultures, all the different stories, the ancient mother tongue, the being able to piece together the history of us. So that these stories, these words, they're not just detached pages of people who died long ago whose lives sort of influence us today, but I don't know how, through some guy named Jesus, I guess, and actually become the family story they're supposed to be. We're grafted in to the olive branch, or to the olive tree, right? He's the vine, we're the branches, we're wild shoots grafted in. Well, let's get grafted in and remember our story. Not just our own stories of where we were slaves to sin, slaves to death, slaves to glance, slaves to every pick a moment of stupidity possible as we look and go, hey, I'm gonna coast through life or worse. Pick a thing, deify it, and go, everything for this. Whatever that this may be. Gold, um, money, lust, power. You pick a one. What are the three major causes of murder? Usually those are. Oh, I hope that didn't get the. Well, we're coming up to a wrap at the 30 minutes anyway, so I've just decided to get hide by YouTube on that one. Say, Libby. Instead of digging into that kind of. Just digging into it together, letting it be a family story. And it'd be the story that unites us so that we remember our own chains broken and our own freedom given. And see it a story here of Israel, of all of humanity, because fun fact, Genesis is prelude, Revelation, post-log, and in between the story of, hey, broken human, I'm here to make you whole. So let's dig in together as we go through, not just on Deuteronomy earlier in the day, but Genesis 2. It may be a bi-weekly thing just so I can actually get a chance to rest, and it does give me more time to fix the tower, but drop a thought and comments here what you guys like to do of either weekly and next week will be this, or bi-weekly, and God willing next time it'll be a little bit better. Please let me know. These words, they went from being confusing and aloof and I didn't quite get it, to being my favorite thing to read. Most of the time my favorite thing to do. Some religious whack job in any way, shape, or form. Unless it's on here, I rarely talk about the text, unless it's brought up by my friends. Try and live it instead. It's my favorite because I spent my life trying to understand humanity. Trying to understand the human condition. Needing to grasp humanity like Jane Goodall because it never quite made sense. We'll dig more into that later. Together, God willing. And when I get to these, and they examine the brokenness, not just of these people here, but as the archetypes of what they represent in us. So their stories are our stories. Their failure moments are a reminder of our failure moments, and it's the same God. I mean, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob still alive. We're in Jesus' day, still are now. Maybe not in the, physical sense, but definitely in the temporal sense. And definitely from God's perspective. So, this story goes from the creation of man, as an entity of enslaved lesser things, but of a beautiful creation, invited to come play and make it even better. The brokenness, the fall, the horrendous choices we make that shatter so much, and the downward spiral continuing circle of story until empire reigns over and every street runs red with the blood of the innocent. hope, in need of light, in need of actually a chance for something better. It has to be something better than the fire, something more than the dumpster. And we've traded it all for. And that's what this text examines. It examines us. We dig into his word and look for him. He reads us. So, and though I'm not the best at doing it, admittedly, doesn't make you at least glad to know they're there. Even we don't always stop to read them. So even if we can't say, yep, and a whole preface too, I'd say, hey, glad it's there. I'll shift my perspective and remember why it's been done. Yes, I am using the preface as a metaphor for how we look at others. And I know most people are like, well, duh. But I want to simply for the fact that it helps make it easier when digging into imagery here. And for those who just saw it, well, yay, cool beans. I mean, I honestly didn't know it was fully going there until after about third reference of jumping between the two. So, hey, this is just kind of just flow of thought, trying to interact with you guys. I'm, like I said, working this out. Like, there's even a little part of me that's kind of like, hey, thing to chat with. But maybe not. We're glad it's there when we remember it. Maybe glad other people are there. Well, it gets a little different. We look at this family story not as a instruction manual, basic instructions before leaving Earth, but as a leading edge look at the human condition and the longingness of the Lord our Creator to make us right. Food for thought. I'll be praying about it since I didn't quite get an answer in the chat, but we'll either see you guys Wednesday or the following Wednesday. I will, as always, do a community tab post, so please keep an eye on that, because happy to keep chatting there. I always post any updates there. As always, post Monday through Friday. We're going through Deuteronomy, and if it is posted after 11 a.m. Pacific time, it will go up as an instant premiere for you guys. So, may his favor be upon you. Know that you're loved. God willing, I'll see you then.